Welcome to Healing Horizons with Saima. Here we explore the unseen layers of energy, intention, and alignment. Today we are joined by the luminous Scarlett Seebach, Reiki master, crystal healer, and the creator of Astral Reiki, a powerful energy modality that bridges the physical and astral realms. She helps people clear interference, retune their energy, and return to the natural frequency of light. So let's uncover how ancient wisdom and cosmic design come together in a unique practice. So, Scarlett, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, you're warmly welcome. It's my pleasure to have you here. So, Scarlett, let's start with Astral Reiki sounds both mystical and precise. So, can you share that how did this energy modality come to life for you?
Sure. I have been able to astral project my whole life. And, that's not actually very special. We can all astral project. We do it every night when we go to sleep. So I just happen to be a little bit more aware about the process than perhaps the average person. So when I was in my Reiki 2 class and they were teaching us distance Reiki, how distance Reiki and in person Reiki work is you're channeling life force energy through your body. It basically starts at the top of your head and goes all the way down to the bottom of your toes and then back out and up and out through your hands. So I was learning this process, how to do it at a distance. And the entire time, all I could think was, this would be so much more efficient if I could just astral project over there and do it through my light body instead. And so I did, and I startled my client quite a bit, but we were friends. It was okay. He forgave me. And it took me a minute to figure out exactly how to channel this energy through my light body instead of my physical body. But once I got there, I found that it was actually a lot more intense and clean than it is when you channel it through your physical body.
That's really inspiring, I would say. And I really like that how you shared that journey. It feels really authentic and aligned with your path. And the way Astral Reiki came together through experiences and intuition makes it even more meaningful. It's clear that this modality holds a deep sense of purpose and connection for you.
Yes, it's something I've been doing for a little bit now, and I know, I'm the one doing it, but only to a certain degree. I am still consistently amazed by the results. So,
Mm-hmm. So, was it a sudden download or did it evolve gradually through your Reiki journey?
so both, the initial spark was very much just a download kind of thing, and combining two practices that I already had to make something that appears to be somewhat unique because I've never met anyone else who can do it. But as I go forth and as I work with clients, uh, eh, you develop experience as you would with regular Reiki. So, I will come across parasites and vortices and inner child issues and various other things and past lives and ancestors and all the things. And so there's a lot of different layers. And so I am still learning with every client that I work with. I learn something new from them.
That's really great to hear, Scarlett. And like you described that process, it really, I would say, like you said, you're learning. It really shows the depth of your connection to the energy and how naturally it unfolded for you. And it's really beautiful to hear that Reiki continues to evolve and reveal new layers of understanding, right?
Yes, it's an amazing journey. I'm happy to be on it.
Mm-hmm. Now, you also specialize in human design, so which fascinates so many people lately. So, how does understanding one's design influence their spiritual or emotional healing?
So in a lot of different ways, but if we wanna tie it into, what I do specifically with Astral Reiki, it actually helps me a lot to have a person's human design chart because I kind of tailor the amount of energy and the frequency with which I do sessions based on a person's human design chart. So I know from a fair amount of experience at this point that if I'm working with a projector, let's say a self projected projector, they've only got uh, 2 to 4 centers defined, and that's not a lot of definition. And they generally have most or all of their motors undefined. So I know that this person is going to need low and slow kind of energy with a slow build up of energy and pressure over time. I can't go too hard on them or I'll overload their system. So I might take a little bit more time with them just to make sure that they get all of the benefits that they need. But we're definitely going at a slower pace so they don't get overloaded. Now, with someone like a manifesting generator who typically, though not always, typically has significantly more centers defined, then I don't have to go quite so low and slow with someone like that. I can use a lot more intensity with my energy and really dive in a little bit deeper, a little bit faster than I would with like a self projected projector. Because manifesting generators, in general, this is not always true, but in general, tend to be a little less energetically sensitive, so they can take a lot more. And then I always take a look at whether or not the person has integration channels, because if they have integration channels, then I generally know that I can see them on a more frequent basis than I would with someone who doesn't have integration channels. So I don't necessarily recommend longer periods of time for someone who has integration channels between sessions. Whereas if they don't, I might recommend it like a minimum of 2 weeks or something before we go on to give my client time to integrate the energy that, I gave them basically. So,
Mhm. That really makes so much sense, Scarlett. And the way you tailor your approach based on someone's human design really shows that how intuitive and intentional your work is. And I love that awareness of like how much energy type experiences healing differently. It really adds like such depth to that process. Now, speaking of that, do you find that certain energy types respond differently to Reiki or crystal work?
yes, absolutely. Again, when we're talking responsiveness, I tend to think about generators and manifesting generators. And I tend to find that manifesting generators and generators, partially because I can use more energy on them, they tend to have more dynamic results. And they tend to experience things on a slightly faster clip. And this isn't always true, it kinda depends on what's going on, but there is definitely a difference in how a person responds. Like, for manifestors, for example, because I am also a manifester, there are things that I look for with them, and it's going to be different from a manifesting generator. Like, the manifestor aura, you have to look at that as kind of its own entity because it's such a closed off system. So you're not just doing energy work on the manifestor's body, you have to also do energy on the manifestor's aura and on the outside of the manifestor's aura. So knowing that helps a manifestor actually respond with a little bit more energy and excitement to actually be able to feel the difference of somebody working on the outside of your aura as well as the inside. There's not a lot of people who know to do that, and it does make a difference. So they all respond a little bit differently. They do respond positively, usually, but yes, everybody responds differently, and there are definitely some correlations to your type.
That's really insightful, Scarlett. And I really like it how you bring that level of awareness into your work, especially as a manifester yourself, and the way you understand the flow of energy with generators and the sensitivity of the manifester aura really shows such depth and mastery. It's clear that you don't just practice energy work, you truly embody it.
Well, I think part of astral Reiki is really being able to see energy in a different way. You know, when you're embodied and you're doing energy work, it's not as easy to see. Even for me, it's not as easy to see what's going on with a person's energy as it is when, you leave your body and rely a little bit more on your clairvoyance. You get a broader picture and a narrower picture, kind of depending on what lens you're using. So it does allow me to see things in a different light. So,
That makes sense. Now, if someone listening feels disconnected or energetically heavy, where can they begin to restore balance at home?
if we're talking DIY, my favorite method, and it's not super duper expensive, but it does cost a little bit of money. My favorite method is by far tuning forks. If we're talking energetic heaviness, that's usually got something to do with your system being a little bit out of tune. So you can go with a fairly universal tuning fork. They call it the ohm tuning fork. I think it's 136.1, but I wouldn't swear to it. Um, but that's like a universal tuning fork that you can use anywhere on your body. And that is by far my favorite method. You can also, if you want to get a little bit more advanced, you can get a set of tuning forks that's tuned specifically to each of the 8 chakras. So that's another way to go about it. Of course, that's going to be more expensive because you're getting 8 instead of 1. But that does get you a little bit more flexibility, and I generally recommend you go with weighted tuning forks instead of unweighted tuning forks because the weighted tuning forks are a little bit more beginner friendly. The learning curve is not nearly as sharp as it is with an unweighted tuning fork. So that is my favorite method. If you're looking for something, just free, then go outside, put your feet on the ground. It's amazing how much that tends to help.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, firstly, wonderful. I really love that you mentioned, the weighted tuning fork. It's such a grounded yet powerful tool. I do believe for bringing the body back into alignment, and the fact that it can be used anywhere makes it really accessible, right, for anyone feeling disconnected or heavy. So, could simple awareness or daily rituals make a meaningful difference?
Sure, absolutely. I am not a person who embraces consistency overall. As a manifester, we're not really built for that, so it's not my go-to. But absolutely, if you have, a daily meditation practice or, some sort of ritualistic behavior that helps with your energy, that absolutely can work for you and probably works for the majority of the population. It's just not something I usually think about.
Yes, I too love that. Absolutely. It's really amazing, how just bringing awareness to our energy or creating small amounts of intention each day can create such powerful shifts. It really shows that how healing doesn't always have to be complicated. Now, for someone just beginning this kind of practice, what one simple ritual or mindful habit you would like to recommend to start with?
A very, very simple one is a grounding practice. So I mentioned earlier, you can go outside and put your feet on the ground. That is a type of grounding practice called earthing. And it's literally putting your bare feet on the bare earth, whether that's grass or dirt or, I don't know, sand or whatever you have available that isn't concrete or stone. That kind of thing definitely is a ritualistic practice that you can do, and it absolutely does help with your energy. If you'd like to step that up a notch, or if you find that the outside isn't as accessible to you as it might be to some others, then what you can do instead, or in addition to that, is a visualization practice. And this is kind of the next step in grounding. So, a really basic one that you can do is envision yourself as a tree. And, your arms can be the branches and so can your head if you want. But more importantly, your feet are the roots of this tree that is you. And what you want to do is envision your feet as roots growing down into the earth through all of the different layers of the earth until you hit the center. And in that molten lava, you just kind of wrap your roots around the center of the earth and just kind of connect in with the center of the earth so that you have that nice exchange of energy between you and the earth.
Oh, that's such a beautiful practice, Scarlett. Honestly, I really love how you describe grounding in such an embodied and visual way. Actually, like you said, feeling your feet connect to the earth and imagining yourself as a tree with deep, steady roots. It's such a powerful reminder that healing and balance often begin with something as simple as presence, and the image of the roots like explain grounding us while the branches reach upward feels really symbolic, I would say, of how we are meant to live, like centered, connected, and open. And the way you explain it makes grounding feel not just like a technique but a gentle return to ourselves, and I think listeners will really resonate with that.
That's awesome. It's a practice that I admit I should probably do more often, but it is how I started out, and it's honestly consistently amazing to me how much it just melts away my anxiety and just makes me feel more in tune with my own body. I find it to be a very powerful practice. And I like the accessibility of it as well because while you absolutely can put your bare feet on the ground or your shoed feet on the ground and feel that connection that way, that's not always super accessible for everyone, especially if you're living in a city. So, having the visualization practice that you can do indoors, not touching the ground, I think helps a lot of people.
Hmm. I completely agree with that, and that's surely going to be beneficial for all our listeners out there. Now, let's speak of energy work. Like, how do you explain or demonstrate energy work's impact to those who are, more science minded?
So, if we're talking science, there's science not is not super great at explaining why things work. Their purview is more trying to figure out how things work. And at the moment, not a lot of studies, if any, are being done on how Reiki works or how astral projection works or any of that. So we don't really have a lot of science to, you know, validate the work of Reiki. Um, so all we can really do is talk about the results that we achieve as far as Reiki goes. And those are largely going to be anecdotal responses. So we tend to have to lean more into the alchemy of science rather than the like hardcore science of the science. And alchemy is very much based in anecdotal evidence. So if you talk to people who have received Reiki, then you will find that they have achieved results of some kind. It may not necessarily always be what they were going for, but they definitely experience improvements in their life after having received Reiki, whether that's improvements in physical pain, like it was for me, or improvements in emotional stability, like it is for some of my clients, or just uh, getting more energy to be able to go out into the world and do things, like it is for a lot of my other clients. So the you kind of have to look at the results more than the science of it, because the fact is we just don't have that. Nobody's studying it, so we can only look at, basic pseudoscience for how we think it might work. We don't actually know how it works.
That's really grounded. And I really appreciate that how you bridge the gap between the energetic and the practical by focusing on real results, on lived experiences, and the way you explain it brings like so much clarity. Like it's not about convincing anyone through theory, but about showing what transformation actually feels and looks like in someone's life. And I really love that you highlight the tangible shifts people experience through Reiki, because that's where energy work truly speaks for itself, and it's such a beautiful way of honoring both the spiritual and the evidence-based sides of healing.
Yeah, and that is actually where we have some science, is in the results of Reiki. There have been some studies, usually in cancer research, that show that a lot of cancer patients feel a dramatic reduction in pain and their chemotherapy symptoms through Reiki. So that is one of the areas where we actually do have some scientific research. We just don't have science that can tell you how it works right now. So,
Yes, absolutely. And that's such an empowering reminder. So, Scarlett, thank you for illuminating how energy, awareness, and alignment truly shape our reality. And to everyone listening, maybe it's time to trust your own frequency, cleanse your field, and invite light back in. And keep exploring your horizons of healing, because your energy tells the story your soul is ready to live.